So on this channel, we've taught you how to build sinew bowstrings, yucca bowstrings, and now we're finally going to jump straight into the modern bowstring. Hey, welcome back guys. This is Ryan Gill with Hunt Primitive, where we entertain, educate, and inspire. And on this channel, we do a lot of primitive hunting and or build videos, just like this one. So if it's your first time to the channel, do please consider subscribing. So on this channel, we've taught you how to build sinew bowstrings, yucca bowstrings, and now we're finally going to jump straight into the modern bowstring. And that's for obviously the people that are interested in primitive archery, but they don't want to take that full dive yet into the primitive bowstrings. Okay, so I've not before ever done an actual video on how I make the modern bowstrings. And the biggest question I get from people is, how do I make the serving in the center that's twisted in rather than a wrapped serving? And the reason I like this is because to me it's a lot more durable, plus it looks a little bit more primitive. I've never seen anybody else ever do it unless I've taught them how to do it. So it's time to teach you today in this video. Now, the information on the strings is in my book, in the bow building book. It's been there basically forever, but of course I'm going to teach you how to do it here. But for all the other bow making stuff, don't forget about the book, because it covers a lot of stuff that it's really hard to cover in videos alone. And I'll drop a link down in the description to where you can pick this book up if you're interested. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using today is B55. If you can get the older B50 stuff, that's fine too. You can also do some modern stuff, D97, 8125, whatever it is that you kind of want to go with. Quite frankly, B55 to me is as modern as I personally like to go. You gotta remember, I'm the primitive guy here. I like sinew and yucca and all that other stuff. We actually did a big primitive bowstring test. I'll drop a link down in the description for that video as well, so you can see the difference in how these different strings perform. Okay, so we're going to kind of cut to the chase on it, and I'm not going to show you me sitting down cutting every single little strand. So this is one bundle that I've made, and I'll show you a little bit on how to make the next one. Okay, but what it is it's 7 strands of this stuff. So I got an older roll here that I use, and each strand, what I do is I'll set the spool down on the ground, and I stand up, and I'll pull this thing way up over my head, and a little bit more. I'm not afraid to have a little bit of extra until you get an idea of what size bowstring you're making. If you want to make a chart and write the exact lengths, everything that you want to do it, that's fine. I don't mind having a little extra left over, and then I can trim it off where I want it later. And for me, it's just been pulling it way up over my head. So I do that one time, and then obviously I make the other 6 that go with it in the bundle all the same size. I hold one to it, and I'll pull it through until I get to the end, and then I cut it, and then I splice the new piece on like this, and then I'll pull it all the way down until I have a bundle of 7. And you need 2 of these bundles. After I've got a bundle pulled off, remember 7 strands is what I like to use. I typically stand up when I do this, but I'll hold one end down with my foot, and I'm going to go with string maker's wax, which is just something I make out of beeswax and pine hafting resin mixed together. And I'm going to really work this into this vigorously all the way up and down the entire bowstring. What that's going to do is that's going to kind of stick all of these strands together, and then when we twist it, it'll hold that twist a little bit better. So make sure that you cover the whole string really well. This stuff does come pre-waxed, but it's not waxed enough. Okay, so I've never really sold the string making wax on my website before, but I know folks are going to ask for it, so honestly I'll probably make up a couple big batches, pour them out in some cups, and I'll sell little cups of these things. You can peel the paper off and use them, just because I know you're going to want to have this stuff. But again, make it yourself by all means. It's beeswax and pine pitch hafting resin mixed together. So I'm not even crazy about selling bowstrings. It takes so long for me overall. Like, I have got a ton of orders, so making bowstrings is not something I'm super passionate about, and I try to teach everybody at home to go ahead and build their own. But of course, if you want me to do it, you can order them, per the size that you need on the website. But I do still really encourage you that you just make your own bowstrings, because if you're going to be building bows or even shooting bows or whatever, you're going to need bowstrings as you go along. Watch the video, learn how to do it yourself. You don't have to rely on me. And I do it more as a service, not like a money-making thing. So don't feel like that you need to come support my channel by buying, bowstrings from me. You'll support my channel by watching it and building your own bowstrings. Okay, so I have 2 different bundles of 7, okay? And I actually use 2 slightly different colors so you can see. Now, this is one of those things you have to have a basic understanding of cord twisting, 2-ply cord twisting. And so obviously it's going to be opposite for you at the moment when you watch me do it, but I'll turn the camera around so you can kind of see what I'm doing from my perspective a little bit more. But you're going to lay these two with about, I don't know, maybe 5 or so inches. Go ahead, pinch them together and start a cord twist. And if you don't know how to do this, you just look up on my yucca cord making video. It's the same process. It's a 2-ply twist. You can look up about any video to learn how to do that. But basically, so I don't need to necessarily show you on my perspective how to do the cord twist, because that's first step number 1. Figure that out if you don't know how to do it. But basically it's just the top bundle goes away from you and you turn it back on itself. So if you don't know how to do that, I will drop a link right in the description. It says something like learn how to do 2-ply cord twist, and then I'll send you to my yucca video, which I really walk through the process on that. Okay, once you get to a point where you've got a decent amount twisted, I've got, I would say, roughly 3 inches right here, okay, which has got a cord twist. I'm going to turn it over on itself, and that's going to show us the size of the loop, and this is our top loop. Okay, so what we do is we separate the 2 different bundles again. Sometimes it takes a second to find it. There it is. Get them separated. That's what that wax is doing. It's sticking together. You don't even have to do the same light colors. You can make them opposite as long as you have one short side with one long side on each, obviously. And that's going to make your loop. So match the colors up if you want, or do them opposite. It doesn't matter. Then you're going to start the cord twist here below the loop. Okay, so see how that works? I like to stick my finger in the loop. As you can see, I can pull up tension on it, but then that makes us a loop. And I'm going to go ahead and walk see what I'm doing here is I'm separating the cords. So about every handful of twists, you're going to notice that you start to twist up your all the cord, or all the strands, the bundles that are still have yet to be twisted. So once you get to a point where it's starting to bind up, just go easy. If you go yanking on it, you can really make a mess of it. So just let it slowly unwind as you back it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this cord wrap, or this cord twist, all the way until those little short pigtail ends run out. And I'm going to get them nice and tight. Okay, so they ran out. And now I'm just back to the 2 bundles, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple more turns on the 2 bundles. And so that's what that's going to look like when it's finished out, and then we're just back to the 2 bundles. Okay, so in this case, I'm building this customer's bowstring. He wants it 67 inches long when it's finally done and pre-stretched and everything. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take 67, split that in half. I put myself on the spot with math, so it'd be 33 and a half, right? Does that sound right? 33, 66, 33 and a half. All right, good. I'm a little smarter than I thought. So now what I'm going to do is measure from the very tip, squeeze the loop together just like it's one solid string, and I'm going to measure down to 33 and a half inches, which you can't see it, but I can, and I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 inches, six and a half inches. Yeah, 6 inches is pretty good from there, and that's towards the loop that we already did. So I'm starting 6 inches above, and I'm going to make sure that these strands are all even. Okay, I'm going to pinch that spot and hang on to it a second. Now what I've got here, I didn't tell you to cut them, but you need to cut them, is 5 more strands that you're going to bundle together that are about 20 inches long, give or take. You know, the whole thing's probably 18 to 20. And you're going to fold this in half. This is the part where you're doing the serving in the center that I teach everybody how to do. You're going to take that bundle and you're going to fold it in half. Now where the fold is, at the top, you're going to take where you're pinching and you're going to lay this in so it's like this. So now when you separate these 2 bundles again, what I did was I just added 5 strands on each side, and now I go ahead and begin the reverse 2-ply cord wrap again. So that's how I'm adding in the fibers. Now you don't have to twist all these all the way down. You can literally run from here, not do any twisting. It's got a little bit of tiny twist already built into it, but just leave that alone. It's perfectly fine. So you're going to jump ahead, and now you're going to do the cord twist, and you're going to twist all of this out until these little pigtail pieces are consumed within the string too. Okay, now one thing that is super important, every time that you cord twist, make sure that you're going the same direction. Okay, because if for some reason you decided to twist this one way, which you shouldn't, everybody twists cord should be the same way. It should be a habit. But if you're new at twisting cord and you're trying to figure it out, and for some reason you twist it the opposite way, if you opposite these, as soon as you pull on it, they're going to both completely unravel. If they're twisted the same way, they can't unravel. Okay, so this entire bowstring has to be twisted all the same direction. Okay, everything. So if you get one completely done, you stand up and you pull on it or you string it up and it unravels, it's because you twisted something the wrong direction. And all it takes is one twist, the wrong, not one twist the wrong direction, but one section of something you're twisting, and the whole thing will come undone. Okay, so I'm almost done twisting this in, and that's our serving area that everybody wants to know how to do. Well, that's pretty darn simple. Well, then the question is, how do you make the loop at the end? That's the other part that gets folks. So there we go. That's the serving that's built in, and that's the size that I like for my arrows. If I run a 14 strand, which is 2 bundles of 8, 2 bundles of 7, 2 bundles of 7 on a 14 strand, and then 5 strands turned over at 20 inches, so it's actually giving me an extra 10 for the serving area, so that builds it up a little bit more. Now that this is run out, what you're going to do is go ahead and pinch where it's here, and the rest of these are, you're going to untangle them. This now has what it's twisted just from us twisting it. It's starting to twist up, but it's actually twisted the wrong way. So I'm bringing the camera in here and show you now what I'm going to do. Okay, so remember, this is my perspective, not yours. But pretend you're me and I'll explain it out. We separate our 2 bundles and I'm still pinching it here, okay? Now what I'm going to do is this cord is slightly twisted to me. Okay, that's just from the way that we are spinning it. If we make our loop and come back, it's going to be what I call cabled, and these strands won't lay together. They'll lay on top of each other, and it'll look more like cable than bowstring, and we don't want it to do that. It's probably not the end of the world if it does it, but we want to avoid that. So what we're going to do now is, if you've been doing a normal cord twist like I teach, you're going to roll this away from you. So lay it on your lap and roll just one strand at a time, and it's going to curl up and everything like this. But you're going to go ahead and roll up just one strand away from you, and you want this to be so rolled up the opposite direction that it doesn't even hold it, but you're still forcing twist into it. You see, I mean, it starts to curl up on itself. Then give it a little bit of a tug. That'll kind of help lock it into place, and do it once or twice more, and it's got as much on that. And that's preloading, back twisting, and that's really important in this step. You have to do this, okay? When you forget it, you'll know what I'm talking about later. So we're going to do the same thing, but roll it on your lap away from you to pre-twist these strands, because as we make our loop and then come back, we'll actually be countering all of this, and it'll be coming out. So that's why we need to put strands or twists like this in it, because if we don't, then it'll actually twist the wrong direction. So make sure that these things are really well twisted up the opposite direction. Alright, so now what we're going to do is come back to the tape measure, and if we want 67 inches, this is the part that sometimes I'm super good at and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I do need to go back and make a correction. And if I wanted to be a little bit more analytical about it, I could, but sometimes I think it's proportional to the length of the string. It's easier for me sometimes if I do make a mistake to go back and fix it. So if we want this to be 67 inches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out to 66 inches. Okay, so about an inch short. And I'm going to pinch it right there. And I'm going to make sure I hold that spot. Now the reason is, We're going to add a little bit when we make the loop, but we're also going to twist this string down, which is going to, like the whole string, we're going to twist it down so it's actually going to lose some length, but then we're going to stretch it so it comes back, okay? So typically, I'm looking at about 1 inch that I measure short, and then I go ahead and make my bottom loop. Now I tend to make my bottom loops a little bit smaller than the top loop because it doesn't have to slide over top of the limb like the top loop does when we unstring it. I kind of want it to stay on, so I prefer to do a smaller loop, and that's why it's only about 1 inch for me, because my loop, when I lay it out like this, is really only about 1 inch, so it's a much smaller bottom loop. Okay, so then as we start our cord twist again, remember you still have to twist it the same direction, and so by doing that, you're not, the whole time you've been building the string from this side to this side. Well, now that you're at the loop, only at the loop, you flip the whole thing around, and you're going to start this loop, but you're still twisting the same direction, the same. I'm not saying this is really important, okay, because somebody say, what do you mean the same direction? The same as I've been doing it the entire time. I'm not saying, okay, now that I flipped it this way, I have to reverse and do it opposite of what I was doing. No, it's the same exact motion that I did on this side, where I said I'm twisting the top bundle away and then I'm folding it over the bottom one to me. I do the same exact thing on this side. Remember, we flipped the whole string around, but I still need to twist the top bundle away and bring it over to me. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you need to change the direction you twist because we spun it around and then saying keep the same direction. I'm saying quite literally cord twist the same direction, because that's why we put all the twists in this cord. If you continue to try to do it reverse and now go back this way, you're probably going to end up doing it backwards. That's why I'm saying spin it around and finish it out. Okay, so now you're probably going to have a few leftover lengths like I have here, but go ahead and walk this down to about 5 inches or so you have your loop finished out. Then I'm going to go ahead and separate the two bundles, the little ones that are left over. Okay, right now leave them a little bit long, because if you made a mistake, you can go back and actually untwist this and then just add a little bit here or there. And we might make a mistake, and I might show you how to do that. But if I didn't make a mistake, then we'll be fine. So then now what we did was put another couple extra turns down here, pull this straight. You'll notice right now that they're cabled really bad. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on this to where you can see they're actually still, let's get it on my finger first, there, maybe you can see it that way. They're actually still twisted the opposite direction and are laid up on top of each other. If you string it up right now, it's going to fight you. So now what you do is twist the cord one way and you're going to realize it tightens. Okay? So, and up here, you twist it back the other way and it'll loosen the cord. So we want to tighten it. So the same direction that you're holding it with this hand, the outer hand, and twisting it to tighten it, you're going to go that direction this way, and then obviously the opposite direction the other way, and you're going to come up to the serving, and now you're going to twist these in that way, because you need to take the other back twist out, and then that's going to lay them together the way they need to be. Now we're going to do that over the whole string. So I'll set it down, and normally I stand up to do it, but I know, make sure that you're checking your direction, and you're going to put maybe 10 or 12 twists in this whole string, okay? And then I'm going to stand up. I got my foot on it at the bottom. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to twist, really lock this thing in here and pull it as hard as I can until it finally slips out from underneath my shoe. Okay, so I'll put that right on my heel, and I'm going to stretch this thing until it slips. Or if I can't make it slip. Okay, now that's going to be a part of your pre-stretching for sure. It'll stretch a little bit more. Okay, now let's go ahead and measure and see where we're at, because we're probably not right on the nose. Actually, that's perfect. Right where we're at. It's actually 66.5. Okay, so he wanted 67. That's perfect, right at the amount of twist, because when you put this thing on a bow, it's going to twist, or it's going to not twist, it's going to stretch. It'll stretch out the rest of the way. So if for some reason you're short or long, untwist it back out and fix this spot. But the more times that you monkey with this, the more screwed up these fibers are going to get. But you'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. So anyway, that'll be your string then that's done. Then I go ahead and trim those couple little extra pieces off and wing them over to the garbage can. And then I'm going to take my string maker's wax again, and I'll stand up, stand on the string, and so that's where all the leftover they're not going to come out of there pretty much no matter what. But just to make it look a little bit better, kind of squeeze those down, cleans that up a little bit. Same thing with the spot by the serving, which you can't really see that I'm doing, but I'm doing it too. And then of course up on the opposite end, and you can even go over the entire string one more time as well. I have quite a bit of wax on this one. I probably don't need to, but if you really want to wax this thing in, go for it. So that's it. Okay, so also keep in mind, now if you're like a ½ an inch too long, you can twist the whole bowstring. Stand on the one side and twist it. Give it about 10 or 12 twists to tighten it up. Okay, that'll shorten your bowstring a little bit. If it's too short, you can untwist it a tiny bit, basically until you only have a couple twists throughout your bowstring. But if you start going the other way, it's not going to get longer, it's just going to unravel on you. So that's kind of where you're going to be with it. If it's really too short, you need to take the bottom loop back out, start your loop up a little bit higher next time, about an inch, and then retwist it back in, and then as you can twist down to the length that you want. So little key there, because you do have a little bit of wiggle room, a ½ inch or so, just by twisting and untwisting the bowstring itself. So say if you put it on and your brace height's just a little bit lower than you want, unstring the bow, twist the string up to tighten it a little bit, and then restring the bow, and your brace height will get a little bit higher. So hey guys, thanks for following along. I really do appreciate y'all following along with the Hunt Primitive channel. We've been doing some really good things this year and the past years, and we're working hard to get you where you want to be in your own primitive hunting and building adventures. And hey, I tell you what, we'll catch you on my next adventure.